our corporate account does. So this screen will just show you how to get rid of that free account and to just be using your corporate account so that you have all the features that you need. A lot of people have free accounts that you've been invited to DotLoop by other brokerages before we started using DotLoop on a corporate level. And the system just created you an account at that time, and we need to merge those. So this first screen will do that. If you find yourself looking at your screen in DotLoop and you see it like this with a light blue down here, look at the email I send you. If you can't figure out, call me, call your office staff. We can fix that for you. So you don't have the free account, that you're using the corporate one. It says it should say premium, and it has our colors in it. These are the steps to take if that is the case. And in DotLoop, you need to make a loop for every one of your transactions. You need to have a loop for every one of your listings, and you need to have a loop for every one of the buyer controlled sales that you represent. If you have a seller who's also purchasing, you are going to need 2 loops. You're going to need a loop for their listing and a loop for their purchase. And they do need to be separate. You don't want to be putting in your listing loop, you don't want to be putting that current seller's purchase offer for their new property in your listing loop. It'll get really confusing. It's kind of tricky if you do that. So just remember, every transaction needs its own loop. And that just kind of explains how to do that on this slide here. Basically, you create a loop, you're going to have some options. You're going to be able to pick it as a new listing or a new contract. Our referral loops, this is a new thing I sent an email about last week. You can now create a referral loop for your referrals. This is just when you're getting referral, not when you're sending a referral out to someone, not when we're paying a referral on a purchase or a sell. This is just if you're going to be getting a referral. You're not going to be actually representing anyone, but now you have an option to create that loop and get the paperwork into the office so that you don't just have it sitting in a file somewhere and nobody can remember where it is by the time the referral comes in. But basically, you're going to want to create a listing or a new contract loop. If you're on our relocation team, you got an email today from Brianna that we now have relocation loops. You'll see those on here as well, but it'll say relocation. So if it's a buyer or a seller that is through our relocation department, you're going to want to pick that. Otherwise, it's just going to be a new listing or new contract. That just explains it out to you a little bit more. There's the referral loop I talked about. If you have a referral, that's how you're going to make sure you have the paperwork in for the office. I will actually talk about this details page now. I'm going to swap my screen over to showing you what that means. The details page is a really important part of your loop, as it's going to allow you to input everything to the autofill feature of DotLoop, which is really, really amazing, and it makes things a lot simpler going down the road. So I am going to show you what that looks like. That's not what I meant to do. Okay, so here I am in my DotLoop, and you can tell that it is my premium account because this is premium and has our logo up here. All you're going to do when I have a new listing, let's say I'm going to do a listing, I'm going to click on this button over here that says Add Loop. It looks like somebody's getting a weird feedback, a chirping sound. Is it my birds in the background? I try to get rid of them by using my headphones, but is anybody else hearing a real, like, not a bird chirping, because my birds are chirping, but if anybody else is it the birds chirping that you can hear? Okay, sorry, they're happy I'm talking, so hopefully they'll be quiet. Okay, so Add Loop. This is where you're going to put the address in. You can put in whatever you want to put in as your address. Let's do Sunny Day Lane, because it's a sunny day today. A lot of people like to put their client's name in here, and that's great. You can put your client's name in here to make sure that you can tell which loop is which, but please also put the address, because the office staff, everything we have goes by address. So if you put your client name in here, we may struggle trying to find the loop down the road, but you can put in, this, and then you can put the client name there if you want to. You can put the client name first, but do put the address in there as well. So there's my property. That's what I'm going to call my loop. It's going to be Sunny Day Lane. I'm going to hit continue. And this is where I'm going to pick which kind of loop I want. It's my listing. I'm not in the relocation department, so I'm just going to hit new listing. If it was my buyer, I would be hitting new contract buyer sale, but we're going to do a listing for now. And the reason it's important to pick the correct loop is it's going to require different documents. Everything in these different loops is set up differently for your representation. So you want to make sure you pick the right one so you get the right documents requested. And once you've done that, I'm just going to hit continue. If I have a photo I want to upload, I totally can. I don't have to. Doesn't matter to the staff if you do that or not, but you can if you want to. Okay, here's my loop, 1875 Sunny Day Lane. So to get into this loop, I can either click right here or I can click view loop. Doesn't matter, it's the same thing. I'm just going to click right there. And now I'm in my loop. And you'll notice when you go into your loop that all of these documents, it gives you a place for all of your documents right out the gate. You don't have to add the different folders you need to have. You don't need to remember, oh, I need to put a cover sheet in here. All of the default stuff is in here, and anything that's a little bit different that might be more specific for a different kind of transaction, you can add. But the basic documents are here. So if you'll notice right here, this folder is the new listing documents folder. And in this folder is the basic information you're going to need to get your property listed. That is all there for you. Then we know you're going to put it in our contract. So here's all the contract documents. Those are already ready for you to submit. They're ready for you to put, the filled out completed forms in here and submit to the office. And earnest money, the same thing, the earnest money receipts there. And your pre-closing folder is also here. So you know where to put things, and it's kind of a prompt to you to remember what you need to put into each place to submit to the office. And then lastly, you have the admin only folders down here. We, as the admin, will put these documents into here for you. You won't ever need to do that, but you can always access them. So we will get your settlement statements and put them in there. We'll get the copy of the wire from title when it closes, and we'll put it in there. You don't need to do it. Anything admin only, you don't need to bother managing that. We will get it into there for you. You will notice some of these documents are required. If they're required, then you won't be able to submit this folder to us until those documents are in there. Optional, obviously there's some optional documents as well, but the required forms are the ones that you have to have a document in there before you can submit. So let's show you what I was talking about when I talked about the view details page. The reason this is so important is this is what autofills to all of your documents. So when you're in your loop, you want to click right here underneath the address. You're going to click view details. And this is going to pull up all of the details for this loop. There's not much in here yet because I haven't told it any information. But if I want to change my name in my loop, this is where I can do it right here. I can go in here and change this to whatever I want it to be now if I've changed my mind. Loop status, this is pre-listing. This is just kind of for your information. This is not a super important thing to remember to change all the time. We can change it for you. We can change it down the road. This is not going to trigger anything with us and the office staff to make it under contract on the MLS or make it active. We won't that won't trigger anything there. That's just kind of an information for you. The people in your loop by default are going to be your staff. So I am pretending to be sample listing agent beta. That's my name. But I am in the Salt Lake office. So the staff is automatically going to be in there. You don't need to add staff to your loops. You don't need to add Christina to your loops. Or if you're in the Bountiful office, you don't need to add Valerie or Letitia or Sharon. Your staff can see your loops as soon as you make them. So you don't need to worry about adding those people to your loops. The only other people you might want to add that are in the company would be if you have a co-agent on the loop. If you are taking the listing, but another agent in your office is your co-listing agent, you're going to want to add them to the loop. But otherwise, you don't need to add your staff to the loop. So I will show you how that works. Not just adding your staff and your other co-agents, but your client. So what you're going to do is click on this add person right here, and it's going to want to know who we're adding. And I'm going to add Sammy Seller because it's my listing and I want to have my client in here. Add to my team, I do not want to do for my clients. That's going to give them access to everything in the loop, including your commission information when it comes over your any other personal stuff that you have in there, or stuff that's not necessarily needed for the seller to see, that would let them see that. So you don't want to do that to your client. The only person you'd want to add to your team would be a co-listing agent or a co-buyer agent. Those people you do want to add to your team. If you work with a assistant, then you're going to want to add them to the loop and add them to your team as well. Anyone on your team has access to everything and can also submit stuff to the office for approval by the office staff. But you don't want to add anybody else besides another co-agent. Okay, so Sammy Seller, let's give Sammy a email address of, let's see, I'll just pick one of my other email addresses. And the role, you always have to pick a role for anybody you add, and that's my seller. If I want, I can add in all of this information as well for my seller, and then it'll all be in one big database. So you can add that if you want to. You don't have to, it's not required, but you can if you want. Then I'm going to hit add person, and there is my seller right there. Another person I would want to add to my loop would be my title company. If you know your title already, great, let's add our title company into here. So let's say it's a Metro Title. Oh my gosh. And then I'm going to tell them that this is seller title because it's my seller's title company. And I can add their email and I can add their phone number as well. I'm not going to add an email for them because I don't want to send them anything right now. And so with the seller, that's pretty much all you're going to add right now. If it was my buyer, I would add the lender on here as well. When this goes under contract, I can come in here and add the buyer's agent in here as well. I can add the buyer's title company in here as well. So I would just add anybody that's involved in the property to this place right here. And the nice part about that is that they're in here when you're ready to send them something, when you're ready to share something with them, you're ready for them to sign something. They're already in the system and you don't have to add them after the fact. So there's my people. I've got them in there so far. Admin only, you don't need to add this. This is some accounting, some internal accounting information. You don't need to worry about that. Property type, we're going to say it's residential, not relocation. It's my sphere of influence. I am not paying anybody a referral, not a short sell. But I would go through this view details page and fill in everything you know. It's going to stop you from having to autofill, having to duplicate entry of details down the road into each file, into each document. And this will also auto-populate to your cover sheet. And I know a lot of people have not really liked the cover sheets in the past. They're a great tool. They're really handy to have, but you have to you feel like you've been putting this stuff in multiple times. This, if you keep your details page updated, you won't have to add the information over and over and over again on documents because it will pull the information from your details page. My listing expiration date, make it all there. Today is the date. And if you don't know the sales price because you just got going on it, you can leave them blank and you can come back into this later and fill this in. So that's pretty much the listing stuff. This details part is the financial stuff. Once this goes under contract, you want to come in here and fill this part out because that's going to be the contract information, as well as this. This is also information about your contract. It's got all of your dates into it. And then the property information, this doesn't populate to our MLS. So this is basically just for your information. If you don't want to input this part, you don't have to. And that's why I've had them put it at the very bottom of the page because it's an information, kind of informational only. It doesn't auto-populate anywhere. So I'm going to just say I've got this all done. I've added all of the details that I have, that I know right now. I don't have MLS numbers because I'm just taking it. And I'm just going to hit save to make sure that all of my data saves. And it gives me this lovely yellow banner up at the top that says save successful. So now I'm going to do this little button here that says back to loop. You want to use this back to loop option when you see this, as opposed to using your back arrow on your website. Sometimes it doesn't go where you want it to go if you use this, but if you do back to loop, it's just going to take you back one page right into your loop page again with all of your documents. So I've got my details in there, I've got my people in there. Now, if I click on this document right here, which is the listing information cover sheet, it's going to ask me if I want to autofill. The first time you open a document, it will do this. So if I notice here, it's going to autofill my seller, metro title, and a bunch of this information that I filled out on the other page, on the view details page. And I want to autofill it. So I'm going to go ahead and hit autofill. And, oh, I forgot to tell it who I was. I do this every time because I forget that I'm not really an agent. Okay. But you can see it did autofill. It autofilled my title company. I didn't actually I didn't fill in all the fields for this, so that's why it's not there. But if I had completed that section, it would have completed it there. Michael Hurd just asked, if I make changes to the cover sheet, will it update all the forms? Yes, it will. It'll update any forms that are not approved. If you've submitted a form and we've approved it, if you change like a REPC or whatever, it's not going to change the REPC if you change something in your details, because that would be bad because REPCs are signed and they're secured. But it will update on here. So like Michael just asked, I put in here, I forgot to tell the system who I am. So let me go back and I'll click save here. And then if I do this arrow back here, it'll take me back a page and it wants to know if I want to share it. Sharing it means sending it to somebody. I can either share it asking them to sign something, or I can share it and just let them view it. But I don't want to share it yet because I am not ready to share this document yet. But if I go back and I go to my view details page, here I am. I forgot to tell it who I was. If I change right here on this none and I say I'm the listing agent and I hit save, and then I go back to loop and go back to my cover sheet, it's not going to ask me to autofill because I've already done that one time. But if I click up here in this Cabernet banner, I click autofill, and then I say autofill, it should. Now I'm the listing agent. So yes, Michael, it will update. If you change your view details page and you go back to autofill, it will change this cover sheet or whatever form you're working on to match the view details. So there's my listing agent. Basically, this form is completely filled out. There's not a lot of stuff you agents will need to go into the cover sheets, buyer or seller cover sheets, and complete anymore. The only things that don't autofill onto here are this information about the Spotlight home warranty, the Spotlight photo tour, and the signs and stuff like that. But everything else autofills on here. So if you complete your details page, you do not really need to put much onto your cover sheet. We're trying to make it as simple as possible so that you don't have to go into your cover sheet and input everything over again. So I was really thrilled about that, especially on the buyer, on the under contract cover sheet. So many details fill in on there if you have them from your details page, that you don't have to input a lot of information. And you'll have so much more information about your title company, your lender, the agent on the other side. All of those things will autofill to your cover sheet. So any more questions about autofill? That kind of makes sense on the view details page? Send me a chat if you have a question you want me to go over, or I'm going to move on to the next section. Okay, so I showed you how to add your people to your loop. I've also showed you how to fill out your details. If you forget a person and you're like, oh, I need to add that person now, if you scroll down to the bottom of this page, you can see all the people that you've added, and you can add them from here as well. So there's two places to add people, either in the details or right here on the front page of your loop. Your people are specific to your loop. So I added Metro Title to this loop. Metro Title won't be in all my other loops. The people are specific to just that loop. So you don't have to worry about them seeing other loops that they don't have any business being in. Okay, so another thing that's important to know is how do we send these documents to our clients to get completed? Sorry, somebody's calling me. Okay, so to do that, you want to make sure that you have your client in there. And then you are just going to click on the document you want to send to your client. And let's click on this exclusive right to sell listing agreement. going to ask me if I want to autofill, and I do. Okay, so there it autofilled. It's kind of small, but there's my seller right there. There's my name right there, the address. There's a few things you have to still pick in the document, but a lot of it's autofilled for you, but like your county, you know, where the square footage came from, that fun stuff. No, there are not. And the seller's information is here. Wonderful thing about DotLoop is if you're using the DotLoop forms, the system already knows who needs to sign where. So if you'll notice, my seller is Sammy Seller. The system is already saying, yeah, Sammy Seller, that's the seller. They need to sign this document right here. I don't need to pull down and drop any boxes down here for Sammy to sign. They're already there because it's a DotLoop form. So let me, the only thing that didn't fill in is this right here, and I thought I had that fixed with DotLoop. We've been having a little issue with trying to get these two little spots to fill in, but I'll work on that. So most of the fields autofill, but you do need to go through the document and make sure everything is still checked and everything is picked that you want to send to your client. I can also sign this form from right in the system. I don't need to send it to myself or anything because I am right here. So it says on this system, listing agent sign here, sign now. As the listing agent, all I need to do is click here. It's going to let me choose the way I want my name to look. And I'm going to say, yeah, that's great. So I've signed it. Now my listing agreement is signed. Super easy, 2 clicks, it's done. Really, really simple. But now I need to get this to Sammy, but this email address isn't going to work because it's not a real email address. So let's go in and show you how to fix that. I've had agents call in and say, hey, I put my seller's email address in there wrong, but how do I fix it? I sent them a DotLoop already, they never got it. It's the wrong email address. There's a way to fix it. It's really quite simple. So I'm going to just click save on this document because I did add some stuff to it. I don't want it to go away. And then I'm going to go back on the back arrow, and I don't want to share it because I'm not ready to send it away yet. And if I scroll down here to the bottom of my page where my people are, I can just click on these 3 dots to the right and do edit. And that's going to let me edit any of these fields in here that I want to. So let's add a correct email address that I have that I can get access to. Okay, so now I've corrected my seller's email address. Now he'll actually, or she, I don't know who Sammy is. We'll get that. Okay. So if I go back to my exclusive right to sell listing agreement, I can share this with my seller. And to do that, it's really, really simple. All I'm going to do is click on this button up here that says share. And it's going to say you're sharing the exclusive right to sell listing agreement with Sammy Seller, and they can sign it. There are some other options on here that you want to be really careful of. If you click can fill and sign, then any of those editable fields on the DotLoop document are going to be able to be changed. So generally, you don't want your sellers to be able to change any of the documents that you've sent them. The only time you would want to make this can fill and sign is when you're sending them the lead-based paint disclosure or the seller property condition disclosure. If you're sending those to your clients to fill out and sign, you want them to fill those out and sign them. You don't want to do that, obviously, but you want them to be able to do that electronically. That's when you would change it to can fill and sign. Otherwise, you're just going to want to send it as can sign. If you choose view only, they're just going to see it. They're not going to be able to do anything with it. And that can be something that is very handy when you're sending your documents to title or to the lender. You're going to want to send them as view only because they don't need to sign them. They just need to view them. But for this case, can sign is basically what you're going to send to your client. If I want to send a little message to my client, I can send it right here. Here is and that is what will be the body of the email that they get. So I'm going to just hit share on that. And it's done. I have now shared my document And it is now in my client's hand for them to look at and for them to sign. So I will show you what that looks like as I wait for that to come through. Now that I'm back on my front page of my loop, it says waiting on others, and it's in orange. So if I hover over that, it'll say what's going on. If I've sent it to 2 separate people and one of them has signed it, one of them hasn't, it'll say Kim signed, still waiting on Sammy to sign. And you'll know, okay, we're just waiting for somebody to sign that. I just need to be patient, and you can call them up and say, hey, I sent you that form, you know, it should be in your email. And then they can go ahead and get it signed and send it back to you. While we wait, let me get this signed so you can see what it looks like when it's done. Okay, so if I refresh my screen, it says signed. So that means my client got it, they signed it, it's done. It no longer says waiting on others, it's signed. If I look at it, I will see that there's a signature now. And in DotLoop, every signature, every initial is dated and timestamped. And it has the the time zone that it's in as well. So you don't have to worry about putting time. You don't even need these date places on here if you're doing it via DotLoop, because it's automatically going to do that. So that is really a lot easier than having to remember to put a date thing anywhere. Everything is time stamped and date stamped for you. So that one's done. I've sent that out to my client. They've returned it. It is back. And now I have my seller listing agreement signed and ready for my client. So the only other thing that I am required to get into this for my listing to be able to be submitted, because listings have a couple required documents, is the listing input form for the MLS. That form, if you'll notice, it's gray. It's not a black, it's not in bold. And that is because it's just a placeholder. There really isn't a document in here. And that's because we want you to start your listings on the MLS and get them saved and get them signed by your clients, and then upload the signed completed form to DotLoop for submission to the office. So we don't have the listing input form here for you to complete, and DotLoop doesn't talk to the MLS. Those two systems don't talk to each other. So if we had a blank form here for you to fill out, it wouldn't actually fill it out on the MLS, and it wouldn't save on the MLS to make for the office to use to make your listing active. So it would be a double entry of information. So you still need to go to the MLS and complete your listing, like start your new listing and save the data on there. But then you can upload the form to here. So I showed you how to complete forms that are on DotLoop, but how do we get documents, or how do we get forms that are in our email or that we had our client hand sign? How do we get those into DotLoop? There are 2 separate ways to do that. The first way is to upload them from your computer. So if you have a PDF already saved on your computer, it's done, it's signed, you saved it to your desktop or to the folder, then you can just pull that document right from your computer and into DotLoop. And to do that, you just click this add document on the folder you want to add it to. You'll notice there's a bunch of add documents. Every folder has one. If I click on this add document, the document's going to go in here. But since it's my listing data input form, I want it to go in my listing document folder. So I'm going to click add document right here, and it's going to give me options. And I want to pull it from my computer, so I want to click on browse because I'm going to be pulling it from my computer. So if I click here and I go to my folder where I have everything completed and signed and saved, I'm going to find my MLS input sheet, click open, and it's going to upload my PDF from my computer right onto my DotLoop folder. And then all I need to do is move this document down to this placeholder. And to do that, I just click on it and I drag it down, and you can see where it says replace with MLS input. It's pretty light, but that's what it says right there. So it's asking me if I want to replace the placeholder with this document, and yes, I want to do that. So I'm going to drop it there. And if I click now, you'll notice this is not gray now, this is bold. If I click on it, you'll notice I have uploaded this document here. And Gary just had a good question. Don't you want us to upload the signed MLS input form, the unsigned MLS input form, and then get it signed via client with DotLoop? You could absolutely do that. It depends on how people want to manage it. Obviously, this one still needs seller signature. So a lot of people will do it just like this. They'll fill it out on the MLS, save it as a PDF, upload it to DotLoop, and share it with their client. But some people print this document out and they meet with their client at their home. They complete it and then they sign it right in person with ink. So either way, you can upload them. It doesn't matter to the office staff which way you get it to us, just as long as it's complete and it's signed. But in this case, yeah, definitely. This one needs to be sent to the client for signature. So I would need to put those fields on here for my client to sign. And I'll show you how to do that because this is not a DotLoop form. It's just a standard PDF. So to do that, to get my client's initials on here, I'm just going to go up to add and I'm going to go to initials. And I'm going to just plug this initial wherever I want to put it. And then the system wants to know who I'm going to put this, who needs to sign this. So if you click assign field, it gives me all the people in my, loop. And I just pick the right person, which is Sammy Seller in this case. And then this is ready to send to my client for signature. Obviously, there's a bunch of them that need to go on here. So I'll want to add, all of the spots for them to sign. But I can do that, and then I can add the signature one at the very end of the page. Any questions on how to get a signature field onto DotLoop? To me, it's a lot easier than DocuSign was because it's just a click and drag pretty simply down. But if you get stuck or if you have any questions, please let me know. Okay, so those 3 fields, I'm not going to do all of them just in the, since we don't have a ton of time. I'm not going to put all of those spots in there. But I will save and share this back to my client. They can sign it. And I'm going to hit share. Done. And I'm going to go back with my back arrow again. And now you can see it still says, this one says it's waiting on others. So I know that my client has it, but he hasn't or she hasn't been able to sign it yet. Okay, and if I refresh my screen, there we go, it's signed. So my client got it, they signed it, and it's good to go. But let's say that I have a document in my email that I need to upload to this loop. Instead of something being saved on my computer, it's something in my email that's a PDF that I have either emailed to myself, I've scanned it and emailed it to myself, or another agent has emailed it to me. And it's in my email, but I need to get it into DotLoop. There's a really easy way to get it into DotLoop. All you do is click on this add document again in the folder that you want to pull from, which is this one in this case again. And instead of clicking browse, I'm going to click email. And when I click that, it's going to give me a really long email address. And all I need to do is hit copy to clipboard. I don't need to remember it. I don't need to write it down because that's ridiculous. But if I hit copy to clipboard and I go to my email and I find that document that someone has sent me or that I've sent myself, the PDF, let's say it's this document right here, I am just going to send this document. I'm going to forward it with the PDF attached. There's my PDF right here. And I'm going to forward this I'm going to right click here and paste. And that long email address that I copied to my clipboard is going to be my 2. And all I'm going to do is hit send. And then if I go back to my DotLoop and I refresh my screen and wait a little bit because it's the internet, it takes it a minute to talk to itself. It will show up in here. So you can, instead of having to download a PDF and save it to your desktop or print it and scan it to yourself, if you have a PDF in an email, you can just forward it right into your loop in DotLoop, and you don't have to save it anywhere. And there it is. So I emailed this document from my Gmail account or from my Berkshire Hathaway email account. I emailed it to myself, and all that I get is the PDF. I don't get the body of the email, all that, the conversation between me and the agent doesn't come over, just the PDF that I sent to myself. Does that make sense? Is that okay? Working okay for everybody? Okay, I hope so. It's kind of weird when I can't have everybody talk back to me and say, no, I don't know what's going on. But I like it. I like being able to do it. So, okay. Well, there is that document. I'm going to move it down here. Oh, I guess I should show you how. To move a document, get it out of a different order, you just click and drag it wherever you want. I don't want to replace this document with another document like I did the MLS input form. I just want to move it to the bottom of my folder here. Also, before I submit this to the office, because it's ready to go, there's a bunch of forms in here that I don't need for this particular listing, like the PCMLS withholding listing form. I'm not a member of the PCMLS, so I don't need that. And if I submit this folder right now to the office, every one of these documents is going to get submitted. And they're not complete because they're not necessary. So they're going to get returned to me because they're not complete. So instead of doing that, clean up your folders before you send them on to the office. And by doing that, you won't be sending in unnecessary documents. It's really easy to do. All you do over here on the right side, these three dots, you're just going to click on it and you're going to archive this document. And it's not deleted, it's not gone. You can retrieve it after because you can't delete anything out of DotLoop. Everything stays forever. It doesn't go away, it just archives. So we can grab it later. But you can go through this, and I would suggest you go through and archive any documents that are unnecessary for this particular listing, so you don't have to have them sitting in your loop, returned and not complete. Not going to do a sign. And the seller property condition disclosure, for this sake, I'm just going to archive it so that it looks done. But obviously you will need that for your sellers, but whoops, I moved it, didn't I? So I'm going to archive that as well. Okay, so these are the only three documents I'm going to submit to the office because I don't need to submit anything else. That's the ones I want them to see. So to do that, all I'm going to do is click on this little box here. I'm going to put a check mark on these three, and then up here in the top right, submit for review. And it wants to know what I want to submit. I want to submit my new listing documents for listing review. These should be here for you. They should all be the correct review stage. And the reason they're here is different people in different offices do different jobs and do different processes. So just make sure if it's a new listing, it should say listing review. If you're confused, call your office staff. But this is actually, whatever these are right here is telling the office staff you have a job to do because we do different parts of the process. So there's my new listing review. If you want to send a note to the staff about it, this will go, please make this active today. Or hey, don't make this active until I let you know. It'll be sometime on Wednesday. You can say anything. This goes in an email to your office staff. So I'm just going to change that to, I'm going to hit submit. And that is going to submit a notice to the office that there is a new listing to be processed. And the staff will go through that and they will process it for you. And they'll go into each one of the documents and approve them, or if there's a signature missing or something's different that if there's an error on something, they can return it to you for correction. You'll get an email that says, hey, this has been returned for correction, and then you can go in there and see what they needed and what was missing. But for now, I know I have submitted this to the office because if I hover over here, it says new listing submitted to front desk. The office staff will go over that and they will approve it, and then they will change all of these to from submitted to approved. And then you'll know, hey, everything's been submitted. I have done my part and they've done their part and we're good to go. So I'm just going to jump back to my slides here. Complete your detail page. We went over that. I'll show you the details page. I showed you adding people to your loop. Getting rid of your incomplete and unnecessary documents. We went over that as well. And we just submitted for your folder, so we submitted that for review. I want to show you easy search for docs. As you can see, there are a lot of documents by default in your loop, but not everything is in there. If you go down to the under contract folder, you'll notice all that we have in there is the cover sheet, the rep sheet, an addendum, and a limited agency consent agreement. there are a lot of other documents that might happen in a REPC. There's a COVID addendum. There are closing costs addendums. There's, you know, so many other supplementary clauses that you might need for your contract, but we don't put them all in here or your loop would be like 30 pages long, and that would be really, really over the top. So how do we get those? You want to go to this add document, and that's the third option for getting a document into a folder. I want to click this one because I want it to go in my under contract document folder. And instead of sending me a complete document, I'm going to look for a template. I'm going to look for a blank document. So I'll click on here, and then I'm going to find, oh, I'm not, this fake agent that I'm being doesn't have the cool easy search option because he's fake, but that's okay. You will see in yours, when you go in here, you'll see this all forms SLC easy search. And that will search every single form in DotLoop for you, and it won't make you pick a folder. So it's really handy when you're looking for folders, when you're looking for a document, click on this, all forms SLC easy search. I can't do that in this one that I'm in, but that's okay because I can still find it. I'm just going to click on this Utah AOR because that's the Association of Realtors. And type in what I'm looking for, which is the closing cost addendum. I found it, it's right here. I'm just going to put a check mark on it and hit copy. And that is going to just put a blank copy of the closing cost addendum in my loop for me to complete. Pretty simple. All of the documents are in there. All the internal documents from Berkshire Hathaway are in the templates, and all of the Utah Association of Realtor forms are also in the templates. So you can find anything you need by just going to templates. And then you can fill it out. It's a DotLoop form. So if I click on this and I hit autofill, anything from my details page will pull over here. And that's if this was already under contract and I had put in the buyer's information and the offer reference date and all that stuff, it would have all auto-populated in here for me. And then the only thing I need to do on these is I need to assign the field because you never know in a REPC if this is going to be signed by the seller or the buyer first. You don't know where it is in the count in the negotiation. So you will need to assign a field to your seller or your buyer. But the spots are there. You just need to assign them to the correct person. Is that making sense? Send me a message if I am missing something or if I'm skipping over something. And let me know if there's anything that I'm not explaining very well. Sorry, Kevin's texting me. Okay, let's go on to my next step. Yes, I want to save my changes, but I do not want to share it yet because I don't want to send it to anybody right now. Okay, so that's our easy search for docs. Loop statuses. We did send an email out about this a little while ago about not changing your loops to withdrawn, sold, terminated, or archived. Please don't do that on your loops. If you do that, we can't find them. It makes it just trickier when we go back to look for loops. The only time you want to change a loop to withdrawn, the only time you want to change a loop to one of these bottom ones is if you've never submitted it to the office for any reason, like it's an offer for a buyer that never went under contract and you just want to get rid of the loop because the buyer's not buying anymore, they're not purchasing at all. But please don't go in and change these loop statuses. We will change them to sold and withdrawn when it's closed or if it fails. But if you change those, we can't find them. It just makes it a little bit trickier on our end. So please only change them to these four on the top of the option page. Copy docs to a new loop. This has come up a lot in the past week or two for some reason. Let's say you are representing a buyer and your buyer makes an offer on a property and then that offer cancels. So you make a new loop for the buyer because they find a new property, but you don't want to make them sign a new buyer broker. You don't want to make them sign a new buyer due diligence because it's still in force and it's still a good valid document. You can copy the documents from an old loop to a new loop. So how to do that? It's really, really simple. What you want to do is create the new loop for your client. You want to make sure that you go in and make them the new loop. And then you're going to go to the old loop that has the documents in it and copy it over. So to do that, let's say I want to copy this listing agreement to a different loop. All I'm going to do is click on it right here. And as soon as I click on it, this little bar up here shows up where it gives me some options to do. And I want to make a copy. So I'm just going to click make a copy, and it wants to know what I want to do. If I copy as a flat PDF, then it's just a PDF. All of the options to edit or change anything are gone. If I copy it as a .loop document, then it would still have the ability to make changes to it down the road. In this case, it doesn't really matter, because if it's a completely signed listing agreement, you're not going to want to make changes, because if you start making changes, it's going to delete all your signatures and you're going to have to start over. We can't change a document that is already signed by someone. That would be illegal. So we wouldn't be doing that anyway. But I'm going to do it as a flat PDF. And I can either copy it to my templates. Now, 2 templates would be my personal templates in DotLoop. I don't know that a lot of people are using that. It would be because it's kind of specific per different property that you use. So in this case, it's to a loop. I want to move this document, this exclusive right to sell listing agreement, from one loop to a new loop. So I'm going to hit to loop, and it's going to ask me which loop I want to put it in. I'm just seeing my loops, so you'll only see your own loops that you have. And I'm just going to say I want to move it to this one right here. And I want to put it in listing documents. It's going to ask me which folder in that loop I want to put it in. And in this case, listing documents is great. So I'm going to hit copy. So all it did was take this document and it copied it to my other loop. And if I show you what that looks like, it is, where is that loop? What was it, Dodge? Was it Trial? I don't even know where I moved it now, do I? It was Dodge. I don't even know where I moved it. What a silly goofball. Okay. Sometimes we have to wait for the internet to think. I'm not very patient sometimes. All right, back to loop. Okay, well, that's how you copy from one loop to another loop. You don't need to download the buyer broker agreement or the buyer due diligence and re-upload them. You can just copy them from one to another and just keep them all together. So you don't have to redo everything if you make another offer for a buyer. Someone just asked, does that copy add all the people in the new loop? No, it doesn't. When you're copying, you're just copying that document. You still need to add the people to the new loop. People don't, when you add people to a loop, you're only adding them to that one specific loop. So if you do have a buyer that fails and you create them a new loop for a new offer, you will need to add your buyer to the new loop again as well. But the system does remember it. So as you start typing in your buyer's name, it will pop up their information and you can just click on it and it'll add them to that loop. It does have a memory feature where it does remember people that you've added to other loops. The Help Center is a great resource if you're not able to get a hold of the staff, but please reach out to the staff. We do this all day long. We've seen everything. And if we can't help you, we will find the solution for whatever issue you are running into. But chances are we will know a solution because we've done so many loops that hopefully we know how to solve any issues or any questions that you have. But if you run into a question that you can't find the answer to, or you just want to call the Help Center, or you just want to read more about it or watch some videos, if you go to the Help Center, you can actually find a lot of information right from DotLoop that's really, really handy. So to do that, all you do is click on your little initials in the top right of the screen and then pick right down here, Help Center. It'll pull up this page over here where you can click on these things and go through a whole bunch of different informational tools that will walk you through any question that you possibly have with DotLoop. And they also have a support number. There's the number. They are really really good about answering the phone. They're all still working. They're all working, and they have a full staff. They are located in the Midwest. I can't remember where they are. So they have really reasonable time that they'll answer. They're not super far away from us, that they're in a different, like completely different time zone area. So it's pretty easy to get a hold of them. Agent signature loop, that was something that we sent out to all of you a week or two ago, where you have now been provided a signature loop. So you can go in and have anything signed that you need to have signed that may not relate to a specific property. Let's say you are you're getting a mortgage on your own home, and you need your broker to sign something stating, yeah, this is the GCI that you had for the previous year. You don't need that in a loop. You don't want that in a property loop. It has nothing to do with a purchase or a sale, but it is something you need to have signed. So you now have a signature loop that you can put anything in there. You can send to anybody you need to have signature, and it won't get submitted to the office. So the office isn't being sent the information. It's just something for personal signature, and for anything you need, bill of sale, any doc that you need signed that's not doesn't have to do with a purchase or a sale of a property. So that's definitely something that I think agents are finding handy. Your notifications, I just had somebody email me today and say, hey, so-and-so, one of my agents isn't receiving any emails from DotLoop. And I'm sending them stuff saying they need to sign something, and they're not getting those emails. You do need to set your notifications. And to do that, you just click on the top right where your initials are at the top, go to my account, and then you're going to see a screen that looks like this. But let me show you in real life what it looks like. Go to my account and go to, no, not messenger. Here we go. Go to profiles and scroll down. And there's a bunch of notifications down here. Notification settings, this first section, that is it's for the app, for the DotLoop app that you might have on your phone or your iPad. But this part down here is email notifications. So I would make sure that if I were you, I would go in here and I would set all these up. That will ensure that you are going to get the emails from DotLoop when people send you something, or when the office reviews something for you. If these are turned off, you won't get those emails, and they're very important a lot of the time. We had another agent that wasn't getting emails when someone shared documents with them in DotLoop. DotLoop, both agents on both sides were using DotLoop for their paper management system, and they weren't getting the emails because they had these turned off. So you do want to make sure you go into your profile and add these here so that you do get notifications via email when someone sends you something in DotLoop. So just change whatever you want, hit save. If you're getting way too many emails after you've turned those on, give me a call and we can look into it and see why. But you shouldn't get a whole bunch of emails just because you've turned these on. It should be reasonable, and they should be important emails anyway. So I would go in there and make sure you turn on your notifications. All right. Who can sign and how? This was something that Craig Lelis put together. We talked about in sales meeting probably a month ago. And it's about getting signatures in DotLoop for entities, for LLCs, for trusts, for power of attorney, all those things. So I know that we sent around this email, I think it's gone out maybe twice, about who can sign and how, but that's also on here. And that'll explain to you how can people sign as an entity in DotLoop. All right, well, that is the basics of DotLoop. And I would be happy to answer any questions. If anybody wants to shoot me a chat real quick, we've got a few more minutes. We can go over and see any questions that you guys might have. Anyone? Anyone? Angie, you are unmuted, my friend.
Okay, so I hope this is not a dumb question. I was doing some transaction coordinating, and as I was using DotLoop, I guess my question is when I was going to put in the fields, because now I see that I can auto fill it, but prior to knowing that, when I would go try to put in the information and you go and put the box where it's supposed to go, sometimes, I hope this makes sense, sometimes it would overlap the line and then I couldn't like move the box to make it the space bigger. How do I do that? Does that make sense?
I think so, yeah. So were you using a DotLoop form or were you using, okay. So were you adding text to the form or
yes, I was adding text.
Okay, let me show you. So, no, this one won't work. Let me grab a different document. Let's do this document. Okay, so I think is this what you were doing, Angie? You were adding like this, adding text?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But then what you're trying to say is, yeah, I'm sure. This box is too small. Is that what you were running into? Like you couldn't type enough into it? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so I could make it bigger, but then sometimes it would just get kind of messy and it would like overlap into the next part of the form. So I would try to go and move the box to give it space.
And you couldn't move it?
And I couldn't move it.
So to move the box, you would have to wait, like you should see this little insignia, like this little arrow, I don't know what it is. If you click on that, you should be able to move it wherever you want to move it. But I mean, I probably need to see the form you were working on to see why it wasn't working. But I mean, that is how you should move it, is by using that little, I don't know.
And you would think, I mean, that's pretty easy to do, but I'll have to show you, for some reason on the form that I was using, it just wouldn't allow me to move it.
Oh,
and maybe it's because I was trying to hurry and do it really fast.
Yeah, it might be, that happens, dang it.
Anyway, that was it.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, we can go over that though. If you want to show me that document sometime, we can see.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, of course. Okay, anybody else? Let's see. Mark Erickson asked, do we need to transfer any information from DocuSign to DotLoop? No, you do not. Joe has been working really hard to get all of the data from DocuSign into another type of software system that you will have access to. So going forward, you will be able to access all of the documents, everything that was in DocuSign, you will still be able to access it. I don't have the details yet. It hasn't been announced yet to everyone, but yeah, that will be something that you will have access to. So you don't need to worry about that. There shouldn't be anything in DocuSign that's active right now. We have moved everything to DotLoop. So there might be a couple files that are still in there, but you'll know if they're still in there because your staff has reached out to you and said, okay, well, this one's still in here, should be closing soon. But no, you won't need to move anything from DocuSign to DotLoop.
Going real quick on that, Mark, we have a meeting this Wednesday to go over the details of that digital backup, but you will receive a link or some other type of instructions to be able to get you to every form that you've ever had on DocuSign in a folder with your name on it, broken out by transaction. So we're getting an update on that on Wednesday, and hopefully we'll be able to make some company announcements either late this week or early next week.
Great. Any other questions? No? Well, thanks for joining me. If you have questions like after this class, you're like, oh, I should have asked Courtney that. Ask me. Give me a call. Send me an email. For sure. Get with me. Let me know if you have any issues or what you're looking for, because happy to help out and happy to walk through the system with you and answer any questions you have. We want you to like the system. We want you to feel comfortable with it. So the more you need to work around with it and reach out to staff, the better. Let us know. We're happy to do whatever we need to do to help you. And I will send out my little slideshow to everyone, so you have that to refer back to down the road if you want to. Just give you some tips and tricks going forward. So.
And we'll have this training available on our YouTube channel, just probably by the end of the day. So just go search for DotLoop training with Courtney, and you'll be able to find this to review if you'd like to later.
Great. Wonderful. Okay. Thank you everybody for joining, and reach out if you have any questions.